Now we get ready for the on-air portion, which we got don't have too much longer to go. And now, how you pronounce your first name?
Kier is in Pierre.
Oh, Kier. Got you. Beginning. Good morning, everyone. It's already tuned in on our live feed. Happy Labor Day to each and every one of you. So, my shares on. All right, 15 seconds. And here we go. Yeah, the K1 2.5 FM. Good morning to you on your Monday, it's September 5th, 2022. Happy Labor Day, everyone. And with this being the first Monday of the month, you know what time it is. It's time for another edition of Making Progress. Making Progress is one of our shows that focuses on the Democratic Party and on liberal causes, just like we have our counterpart, Conservative Corner, that focuses on the Republican Party and airs on 4th Tuesday. So we try to keep it fair over here. Joining us today is our usual guest, Renee, and joining us also is Kier Heyl. And Kier is actually a candidate for Jonesboro City Council. I believe you're running in Ward 1, I believe.
That's correct.
And because of that, and as always, got to get a disclaimer. Haley Cannon, the voice of Arkansas Minority Advocacy Council. We do not endorse, support, or oppose any candidate for office. We provide these interviews for informational purposes only, but as always, we encourage you to exercise your right to vote. Election day is November 8th. Early voting starts October 24th, and you have until October 10th to register to vote. So with that being said, we want to welcome our guest today. So Kier, I believe that you have something that you want to talk about, a program that you're working with. So go ahead and kick it off.
Sure. So like you mentioned, I am running for City Council. That's not why I'm here today. I'm here to talk about the NEA caretakers of trans youth. I myself have a trans child who's 12 years old. And with the inaction of the SAFE Act in Arkansas, it became very, very difficult to find any kind of resources for my family or my child. So after spending about 14 months going down rabbit hole after rabbit hole, trying to figure out how to navigate this system, I and some friends decided to start this group to try to help other parents navigate our current system, as well as just navigating parenting a trans child in general, which can be an ordeal in and of itself.
Okay, and let's talk a little bit about your experience being a parent of a trans child, because there's been a lot of talk in the media about trans people. Different states, as you mentioned, have been passing laws banning teenagers to get the medical attention that would allow them to transition and whatnot. But just kind of walk someone who may not even know what's going on through the process of what it's like being a parent, and like even for example, just even having that initial conversation that your child feels this way.
Absolutely. So it was about a year and a half ago, my child came out to my wife and me as being non-binary. And
for the listeners that don't know what that means.
So non-binary means that they don't feel comfortable with either gender terminology, right? They don't like being called he, they don't like being called she, they prefer being called they. And it's because they don't truly feel like either gender. They feel like they're somewhere in between. It's also a very common step, as I have discovered, for kids who eventually come out as trans to first come out as non-binary. And it's just, everything's just figuring things out as you go, right? I will say, I think there's no shame in saying that it was a bit of a shock for mom and me. This is not something that I think any parent anticipates. And that's a big part of why we started this group, because even outside of the laws on the books in Arkansas, it's a tough transition in your household, right? And there's a lot of different steps that some kids will take and some kids won't take, and it's just all kind of depends on, child to child, family to family. Everyone's different, every family's different, so I don't think there's one right answer to this. The only exception to that being, love your kid no matter what, right?
Okay. And I'm
So,
sure that, go ahead.
so the first step that we did was we went and saw his pediatrician, and his pediatrician was very supportive and was able to provide a little bit of feedback, because it was just in a situation where the law had just been passed and then immediately overturned, and there was all that stuff going on right at that moment. And so we, the pediatrician helped us how they could, and they referred us to the Children's Hospital in Little Rock. And there I talked to people over there who, again, helped us how they could. But with the law on the books, it was very, very problematic in Arkansas to seek any kind of medical help of any kind, right? They would refer us to a therapist in Arkansas, because before you can seek any kind of treatment, you need to have a record of gender dysphoria on the books. And for those of you who don't know, gender dysphoria is it is a term used to diagnose someone who is not comfortable in their body. And the treatment for gender dysphoria is typically to transition to the other gender, or to a non-binary gender, however you, whatever it is that you wish to transition into, so that you will feel comfortable in your body, right? It's not a mental health issue in terms that you typically try to reverse the mental health issue. You try to make your body match what your mind is telling your body. That is the typical recommended way to treat this particular condition. And I think that that's important to know, because I think there's a lot of misinformation about it, and there's a lot of stigma on mental health to begin with. And this is one of those mental health things where the treatment is more of a physical thing than a mental thing.
Okay, so how was it like with your child dealing with it from the mental perspective? Because you hear about trans, especially trans youth who get depressed, several attempt to or even follow through with suicide. And then when you see what's going on with all of the controversy and those kids seeing all of this going on in the news and on social media, how does your child emotionally process that?
So there's some advantage that my child has. My child has a distinct advantage that his family is very supportive, right? So he's not dealing with a lot of the mental health issues that you'll typically hear about. And again, everyone's different, every family's different. I'm not saying that someone who has a very supportive family wouldn't have mental health issues or depression based on other interactions, but so far they've been lucky. They've not been bullied at school, anything like that. Very, very supportive family. But I think that that's an important note, right? They have that supportive family. So because my kid has that supportive family, he's not dealing with the type of depression and things like that you typically hear about. And those causes are almost always worsened by a family that's not supportive of their kid, right? So I will say, finding a therapist proved to be very challenging. And that's because of the law on the books, the SAFE Act. It's ambiguously worded enough. There were many therapists who were uncomfortable trying to diagnose or treat or do anything, right? Because just the way that the wording of the law, you can lose your license if you go and treat someone in any kind of medical form, right? And it tries to spell it out, but it says including but not limited to, and that but not limited to scares away a lot of people. So we probably bounced between 5 or 6 therapists trying to find someone who would even be willing to work with our kid. And let me tell you, like you said, this is an issue where depression, anxiety, mental health, those issues come up more frequently with trans children. And having that law on the books that prevents someone from potentially addressing that is absolutely terrifying to me.
Okay. Now, obviously, you mentioned that you have been supportive of your child. Have you found that you've had to support maybe any of their friends that may also be in a situation who may not have that parental support?
Yes, and it's really, really sad. My child has several friends. They form what they call the Rainbow Squad at school. They have friends who are non-binary. They have friends who are trans. Some of their friends are out to their parents. Some of their friends are not out. Some of their friends are out to their parents and their parents aren't supportive. And, you know, it's a fine line to walk, right? Because you want to, when you're dealing with someone else's kids, you don't want to undermine that parent's, that kid's parent's authority. But at the same time, you want to let them know that they're fine the way they are. They are accepted, right? There's nothing wrong with that child. So I remember this was beginning of this year. My kid had a birthday party. They were turning 12, and he had his friends over, and all of his friends were either non-binary or trans or gay or something, right? Because that's who he hangs out with at school. And many of these kids, this was their first time they felt like they could be themselves. My kid has a pride flag and a Demi Boy flag, and they would just take turns like wearing those as capes and running around the house. And it was, I don't know, it was a very moving moment. And again, I don't mean to undermine anyone else's authority as a parent, but I think it is extremely, extremely important that these kids know that there's not anything wrong with them and that they can be loved no matter how they identify or who they love. And I think that's very important, especially in this area, which tends to try at the very least to other them and hide them away, right? So it's a fine line, like I said, but I think it's important one to occasionally tiptoe over.
Okay. And is there anything else on this particular topic or about the organization that you are with that you wanted to say to those who are just tuning in? Then we're going to bring Renee in to talk about just kind of what's going on with the Democratic Party.
Sure. So we are a brand new organization. We had our first meeting last month. There were 3 people, including me, who showed up. We've got maybe 4 or 5 people on our Facebook group right now. If you would like to join the Facebook group, look up NEA Caretakers of Trans Youth. We use the term caretakers instead of parents because, unfortunately, things being what they are, not always the parents who are taking care of these kids. The important thing to note is this is a private group because not everyone has a kid who's out yet and not everyone's comfortable being out yet. So whenever you request to join, you will get a direct message from me just trying to vet you and make sure that you're not someone who's just coming in to try to grab some screenshots and out some people. We got to be real, real careful about that. So please don't be offended if you request to join, and I'm basically try to give you the third degree about, hey, what's up? What's going on here, right? Because that part is very, very important. Uh, Another thing that I want to talk about on this SAFE Act, and it's currently been overruled, but I think that they're trying to push it up to a higher court. You absolutely can, you absolutely should reach out to your representative or your legislator. You can find your representative at www.arkansashouse.org. There's a feature that you can use to find who your representative is. And you can find your legislator at senate.arkansas.gov. Got a similar feature. Write an email to each of those saying, hey, this is important that we just let this rest. We don't need to push this any further. It is hurting our youth in our state. And that's absolutely true. We spent 14 months trying to find a doctor that would even talk to us, because it's not only illegal to treat kids in this state, it's illegal to refer them to another doctor to treat them. So it becomes even more tricky, right? Which means you're just calling up doctors on your own without any guidance, trying to find anyone to talk to you about this stuff. We ended up driving 9 hours to Nashville, Tennessee and back for a 30-minute doctor's visit. And I mean, not everyone has the capability or means, time to take off, money for gas, potentially money for a hotel to make that trip. And I think it's extremely, extremely important that this kind of healthcare is available locally. And I would encourage everyone to please write your representative and your legislator and ask them to encourage the state to not try to press this any further.
We've been speaking with Kier Heyl. Give the organization one more time.
It is the NEA Caretakers of Trans Youth.
NEA Caretakers of Trans Youth. This is our Making Progress monthly segment on KLK Community Conversation. We want to bring in Renee now just to kind of give an update on what's going on with the Democratic Party and the Progressive Caucus.
Well, just to follow up really quick with Kier's topic, since it's of interest to us, you can obviously email your state legislature reps in Jonesboro. We have Jack Ladyman, Dan Sullivan. Those are mine, and there's others, but now I can't think of them, of course. But if you look them up, those are two people who did support the SAFE Act. And you can email them, and I highly encourage you to email them and be like, hey, cut it out. However, you can also email the Arkansas Attorney General, who is a key figure in pushing this up to a higher court. You can email her by going to arkansasag.gov, and at the bottom of the page, there's a contact us form. And you can, and there's like a little drop down where you can select general questions. And hopefully write in to her if the form doesn't work. There's also emails you can use, but generally it takes a second, you just wait and the form will load and you can fill out all your information and you can be like, please let this die. Let this bill die. It is hurting Arkansas families. It is hurting Arkansas kids. There's just no reason for it. And our opposition has a really funny idea of freedom and small government, because I can't really think of small government as a government that tells families what type of health care they can get for themselves and their kids. That doesn't feel like freedom or small government to me. That feels like, authoritarianism and fascism. So yeah, those are the things. So those are the things you can do. And I would really encourage everybody to throw a big fit, because the squeaky wheel gets the grease, as they say.
Yeah.
And
something I would
Go
add.
ahead.
This bill is filled with a lot of stuff that we have literally no need for. Like a big part of this bill is trying to uh, uh, restrict or prohibit people from doing gender affirming surgeries to minors. There is no doctor in Arkansas that performs gender affirming surgeries on minors. I don't know of any doctors in the United States that do it. There may be, there may not be, but typically speaking, most doctors won't recommend that you try to do any kind of surgery on a child that's still developing, right? On top of that, the main thing that this thing restricts, which is problematic for our youth, is puberty blockers. Puberty blockers are proven safe. They've been used for decades from children as young as 4 who genuinely start puberty early, and they need to block puberty until they come of age. This is just prolonging that a little bit further. There's decades of research on the books showing that this is safe. There's, you know, with everything, there are risks, but that seems like a thing that a doctor and the child and the parent should be discussing together and coming to a conclusion. It shouldn't be up to state legislators who don't have a medical degree, do not have a trans child, and don't have any idea about the repercussions of what they're trying to put forth is actually doing to the kids in Arkansas.
Okay. And is there anything else, Renee, that we did not cover? Any other topics that you wanted to let be known to the listeners and viewers out there?
Well, the Biden administration canceled a bunch of student loan debt. I did want to just quickly mention that. A lot of people will have their loans forgiven automatically, but if you want to check, you can go to studentaid.gov, and there are a lot of different resources there. The one thing that I wanted to highlight was the public service forgiveness, the public service forgiveness. So if you have student loans and you work in public service, that one does have a deadline. You have to re-sign up for it because they've changed a bunch of the things that make you qualify. So you have to re-sign up for it by October 31st. So if you've had student loans, you've worked in public service, you have to do it. But don't wait now. Don't wait until Halloween. Do it. Go to studentaid.gov and look up all the information you need, because you may need to apply to make some of this stuff happen. This is an incredible thing that the Biden administration has done. I mean, it's the lowest bar. They didn't cancel all the debt, but they canceled a huge chunk of it and put in protections for some people. And it's going to be life-changing for a lot of people who still have loans, because they've also lowered the amount of discretionary income that can be used to pay loans. So say if you're a teacher and you were paying $150, now you're going to be paying 61. If you're a nurse, instead of paying $260, you're going to be paying not $95. These numbers are incredible, and it's going to be it's going to remake people's lives. And I know somebody is going to raise the point, oh, well, how are we going to pay for this? Why are we giving handouts to poor people? But the administration just did something with either Medicare or Medicaid, I can't remember which now, where they get to negotiate drug prices, and the money they're going to save is about $300 billion, and the cost of the cancellation is, yes, indeed, $300 billion. So the government, federal government, is really good at shifting costs around. So nobody's going to be paying more in taxes for quote unquote handouts, even though apparently people were fine with the rich people in our community getting all their PPP loans, in the hundreds of thousands and millions forgiven. That's apparently okay, but not working class students. But definitely check it out. Again, the URL studentaid.gov. Make sure you go and you follow up if you have student loans, because you everybody deserves to be out from under this predatory debt. Everybody deserves that. So please look it up.
Okay. And are there any upcoming events or fundraisers or any candidates that will campaign for office that are upcoming?
Well, most a lot of our statewide candidates are across the state. I know there's something happening in Rector today, a parade up in Rector is in Clay County, right? So there's a parade thing happening up there, and we do have a debate between our state Senate 20 candidate, Shanoa Summers and Dan Sullivan, that's going to be hosted by Political Animals. And that's going to be on September 23rd. And I do think you have to RSVP to that. So you have to email neapoliticalanimals@gmail.com and just say, hey, I would like to reserve a seat for this thing. So that's the Shanoa Summers and Dan Sullivan debate, September 23rd at 12 noon at the First National Bank on Hilltop. So if you could make that, that would be great. There's an entry fee and it's $20 at the door. So you have to both reserve your seat and you have to have $20 to get in. But we would appreciate all our Democrats and progressives coming out to support Shanoa Summers, who is our candidate for state Senate.
All right. Any final thoughts or comments?
I don't have anything besides please come to the Democratic Party of Craighead County meetings every fourth Tuesday at Legends Barbecue. We are super fun. We are a great group of people.
All right. Kier, anything else from you?
You're muted, Kier.
Just once again, the group that I'm helping organize is NEA Caretakers of Trans Youth. You can look us up on Facebook. We get together about once a month as parents to just discuss what we're going through, support each other, just figuring things out together. So if you got any questions, please reach out to me directly on Facebook or look up the group, request to join, and I'll reach out to you.
All right, and I'm going to just read a couple Facebook comments before we go. Chris Engel says, people don't hesitate to feed their children large doses of melatonin, causing them to sleep, not realizing it speeds up the onset of puberty. Rosemary says, lower prescription prices and forgiving student debt, win-win. And Chris says, it's a town hall type debate. So bring your questions. That's going to do it for this edition of Community Conversations on this Labor Day. And I hope each and every one of you has a great Labor Day. And of course, Kayla Ken, the voice of Arkansas Minority Advocacy Council, will not endorse, support, or oppose any candidate for office. We provide these interviews for informational purposes only, but we do encourage you to exercise your right to vote. Election day is November 8th. Early voting starts October 24th. And you have until October 10th to get registered to vote, but don't wait until then. Go ahead and go to the county clerk's office, get registered today. All right, that's going to do it. We thank our guests for joining us, and we thank each and every one of you for watching and for viewing. You guys have a great and blessed day. This is Kate, LEK, 102.5 FM. All right, that's one in the book. So you all enjoy the rest of your day. And
Legante, I have one thing for you before we hop off.
Well, let me stop the streaming recording. So